Oh, yeah? Okay. Let's see what's going on with that. I don't know why that's happening. But here we are. I guess I'm in on it. Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. We were having no audio on our intro video, but we have audio for my voice, and then all of a sudden we are on me, and that was totally not time for that to happen. But hello and welcome. It is Thursday. It is December the 7th, 2023, a day which will live in infamy. However many years ago it was. How many years ago was Pearl Harbor now? Like 70 years, 80 years? Crazy. But my name is Cliff, and we are so glad to have you with us. We are also joined by Aaron Armageddon via Skype of the Armageddon Hour podcast, and we were trying to watch his video as we were coming in, but for whatever reason, this program can be finicky. It's a pretty good program, especially considering it's free, so I can't really complain too much. But sometimes it gives me a little bit of trouble with trying to make sure that it changes settings abruptly and without my knowledge, so that's never any good. But we managed to make it work as best we can, and another of those things that likes to change is the viewing aspects of the videos when we have Skype. So it's switching me and Aaron up, but hopefully we'll stay pretty steady there. If you would, like and share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and go down in the link you will find in the description of this video a link to Aaron's Armageddon Hour podcast channel on YouTube. Also go follow the Iron Mountain Hour on X, or Twitter as it was once known. You still go to twitter.com if you go via desktop, but you go to the X mobile app. And no, it's not porn. Now, I've been somebody, I shared a link with them, and they're like, oh, they didn't want to open it because it said blah 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 x.com blah 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 blah. And they're like, yeah, I don't want to open that. What are you sending me? But it's just Twitter. But yeah, for whatever reason, Elon Musk chose X to be the name for everything that he wants to do. SpaceX.
Yeah,
that's what they call him. His name's like XZZC3, blah blah blah, blah, a bunch of damn numbers, and he calls him Little X or Little Xy. But as I understand, though, one of the reasons that, I could be incorrect on this, but this is my understanding of the situation. One of the reasons that he was really pulled into the free speech debate like he is, and like the culture war like he is. I mean, he was always kind of in there in the meme sphere. Being the richest man in the world, for one, he really can't avoid some sort of spotlight on him. But he really took a big spotlight when he bought Twitter, and he's kind of been one of the main characters in this drama we've seen unfolding before us. And yeah, one of the main things I think that I heard that would cause him to get involved in the culture war as he has was custody battles over his children and them being gender transitioned against his will and against his wishes. So I think that give him a real personal stake in everything that's going on, and that was about the time, I think, that that he was dealing with when he was first talking about buying Twitter, because the Babylon Bee got shut down over obviously satirical article, and he said that wasn't right, freedom of speech to be allowed. And then next thing you know, he's put together a small group of investors, and they've bought Twitter. And suddenly you've had the everything going on lately with investors pulling out. He bought the platform for $44 billion. There was a whole back and forth over whether or not he was going to buy it for $44 billion, because he made the offer, but the offer was contingent upon the amount of active users being accurate. And it turned out that a lot of the users on Twitter were bot accounts. So then he says, basically, I don't want to buy the Twitter now. And then Twitter basically sues him and says, well, you have to buy it because you already made an offer, and we gave you an audit showing you that a certain number of them were not bots. And so anyway, after a lot of back and forth, he ends up buying the company for $44 billion. And a lot of people said, well, that's a big waste, and why would he do that? And, a lot of people don't even have Twitter. Twitter's not like a social media app like Instagram or Facebook. It's almost entirely like sports and political, and you don't. I mean, there news, sports, political stuff, and there's not a lot of. I mean, there's some celebrity stuff, but it's not near the thing for regular people, like your I guess you'll call them your normies or your NPCs like Facebook or Twitter. It's kind of it's kind of dependent on written word, albeit a short written word. But with all this going down, I think that had a lot to do with him deciding to get into this. And people said he wasted his money. They would say it was overvalued. But I think ultimately he understood that this is where Twitter is where the news happens. If you watch Twitter, if you've been subscribed to it over the last several years, you'll see journalists on there communicate with one another, and basically you'll see the news before it becomes news, sometimes even weeks before it happens, because you'll see it float around Twitter before it actually gets printed. And there, in addition to actual mainstream journalists on there, there's a lot of independent journalists who post everything that they do on Twitter. So if you're into news and politics, you're really missing out if you're not on X or Twitter. I definitely support what Musk is doing with trying to make it the free speech bastion. I'm glad to pay him $11 a month to be able to stream there, even though we really don't have any viewership on Twitter right now. But I basically just we have the ability to stream, so we'll do it, and we'll contribute a small amount to the fight for free speech, as well as advocating for it.
Yeah, I would much rather support X and Musk than YouTube. You know, I mean, even, but you know, that's just the main platform. You know,
that's where the normies are.
It's just yeah, exactly. And it's a
Yep.
user friendly kind of thing. But I'm gonna like the pirate ship sinking. You know, and step off onto eventually because you know they banned me on just about everything. My Instagram is locked down right now. I don't even have my Instagram's even is gone. Facebook was gone a long time. And I was maxed out at 5,000
Yep.
people on there, and it was gone. And that happened. I'm not even gonna say the date. It's such a scary day, but it was gone that day. You know, or the day after. But yeah, I've still got like pretty much just YouTube now. I don't have Facebook or you know just for that reason. But you know, if X is not you know, like little internet Nazis, you know, the internet goblins on there, you know, then I would check it out much rather than get constant notifications that my comments have been flagged for this or that, and it's always something. I mean, it's just like you can say like YouTube got me one time. It was like something like it was just something about Biden. It was innocent too, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't even that bad. And it was like right around the last election. I remember that happened, and but it's like it's definitely like around that time, you know, when it starts to get around voting
Oh
time.
yeah, they get real touchy about it then, don't they?
On social media. Yeah, and that's a fact. You know, they'll mess with your algorithms too. You know, it's like my Instagram could be gone for even a year. You know, I don't know when it's going to come back. It said this may take a data process. It's been like a month for their day process.
Yeah. Well, heck, we had. And most of the time they don't even have an actual human review anything. We had a video get copyright struck, and we'll see this. They'll probably copyright strike me for actually, or not copyright strike, but for misinformation. They actually just deleted the video from the channel. No record that it ever existed, and probably just this will be a good test of it to see if they pull this one, because in the video, I never said that I believed that the 2020 election was stolen. I never said that I believed that. I said Mike Lindell was having a symposium where he presented evidence that he said proved that. And I was very clear because I know YouTube's rules to put it that way.
Well, it's a narrative. Yeah, it's the narrative, and they want to control against it, and you don't say things that they want to hear.
But the funny thing was, it was like 6 months after the fact that after I posted the video, that it was flagged and removed, and I appealed it, and I gave the explanation that I just said there. Look, I never said that. All I did was report what somebody else said, and they within a few seconds denied the appeal and struck the video.
Wow, it's crazy. It's crazy how they'll do that. You know, they can mess with the. It's like there's certain times too. I notice if I post a video if I don't, yeah, it's like between, and it's like in the AM. And like a lot of my subscribers, which is cool, I think this is a cool thing, but a lot of
Oh
my
yeah,
subscribers are in India.
they like those
It's like
bears.
yeah, it's marketed my videos towards. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. So if somebody's watching this, but I think that was really cool. Actually, I was like, well, that's cool. Like, but they're not really showing it. It's like mainly, like I said, it's like UK and India is where it's showing it, and it's like in the AM. That's the only way I can get like those 1,000 views on the Bears and stuff. But the short game is changing, and the short videos, they've monetized that too. So,
I saw
but
what you really have to make on YouTube,
yeah,
to get shorts monetization. The kind of money you get. Now shorts do have the chance to get way more views, but I was looking at oh gosh, what was the guy's name? Hank Green or something like that. He was a top streamer, and he was one of the tops on YouTube and one of the tops on TikTok. And on YouTube, he had 37 million views of his shorts. He got paid $3,700. Same with TikTok. Like 30, he had about the same on TikTok. Got $3,600. Now, you think about that. The kind of steady views that you have to draw to your channel to have an income from it. That's insane. So at least directly from
yeah,
YouTube. Now you can have an income. A lot of people do podcasting and shows like this where they do have an income from it by having subscription plans and members only segments and
yeah,
things like this. And I think that's a really good model because you offer. What's that?
like Crowder, like Steven Crowder
Yeah,
did
yeah.
with he brought Alex Jones on.
Well, like you have if you have a product of value, like your podcast or your discussion that you're having with your users or your guests or whoever it is, if people are willing to tune in, then you obviously have something that they want, and you give. Well, yeah, I mean, you give most of it out there, and you give people a reason to feel like it's worth paying you something for the extra. And there are podcasts that I really dig. Quite frankly, he's everything is free for him. He does offer subscription plans for like super fans and stuff, and that's a lot of things that keeps him afloat. But like he also has a super chat thing where you can chat on his channel and you can give the money direct to him. And I just prefer to every now and then. I drop him like $77 because I've been listening to the guy for like 5 years, and he's got an excellent show. If you haven't listened to him, it's Quite Frankly podcast. If you go to quitefrankly.tv, check it out. If you like this show, you'll definitely dig it.
Yeah, it's a good show.
But rather than a subscription model, I just kind of because I don't really care about his extra content and behind the scenes stuff. But some people they really get to like the content creators, and he'll do stuff like, oh, if you want to hang out with me and the family while we go do something else, this is an exclusive video for subscribers, and then they'll send you postcards, and a lot of people are getting by financially doing stuff like that. It's kind of like. Almost like intellectual OnlyFans, or emotional OnlyFans.
Yeah,
That's the way a lot of subscribers or a lot of podcasters are getting by. But then a lot of people are doing ad reads, they're doing sponsors, and there's all kinds of ways for you to make it out there. So if you make something that people are into, then then the money will follow it. So you don't necessarily have to use YouTube. You have to make something that has a value to people, and you have to have an idea about how to get it out to them and offer it to them in such a way that they'll be willing to pay money for it, just like with any service. So that's pretty much what podcasting is. It's a service. It could be news service. It can be almost a therapy even. A lot of people listen to it in its background, don't even really pay much attention to it. But it's a new world out there, and you were mentioning to me today, Aaron, that they have with the same place I put the music out, the DistroKid, you can actually distribute your podcast to all the streaming platforms there. So I think that's what we'll try to do is see if we can. I'd say they have a converter there too, don't they? Where we can give them the video version and they can just put up the audio.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they can do that too. I know, like, the feature I really liked about that was when you upload your track, it'll do an extra master, like it'll master the track for you. And it sounded like, like with that last single I just put out, "The Dead Men Tell No Tales," which is a really old song, but it was nominated twice for the Tennessee Singer Songwriters Association and stuff. But I just now finally released it. But I'm gonna do this weekend. I'm actually working on remixing the whole thing and adding some like background synth and stuff like that. But I wanted to release that one just kind of like the acoustic raw first,
And that's on Spotify,
But
Pandora, Deezer, Stitcher, all that good stuff.
Yep. But when you upload it, it'll even like, but it sounded so much better
Yeah.
after I ran it through their master. Because I was skeptical, I spent a lot of time mixing and editing and all that, all the tracks and all that, making sure that everything's equal and stuff. But it actually did. It balanced everything out, and there was a couple of little things I'd missed, and it picked it up too. So I'm actually like really impressed with that.
DistroKid.
What's it called again? Disco.
Yeah, I have a
DistroKid.
I put the music up there years ago when we first released that album with Corned Beef and the Pillbillies, and I had to pay one time to upload it, but it puts it out on all the platforms, and I usually earn enough. Well, I mean, I don't think I've ever had to pay again to keep it up there, so I think it just makes.
Yeah, it's like $30 and it'll leave it up forever, or you can just pay your annual. But I'm gonna do the $30 one.
I think when I did it, it was $30. You had to pay $30 a year to keep it up, or it was $20 a year to keep it up. I don't think there was a $30 lifetime. Maybe there was.
Yeah, it's like $22, and then it was like but for $29 extra, you can tack it where even if it'll stay on all those platforms as long as
we usually make just enough money to keep it up on the platforms every year, so that's good enough for me. I have my debit card that I had on there expired years ago, but the stuff keeps staying up because it makes just enough to keep it up.
Spam email, probably like a million spam emails. I know I do. I think those people, I like that thing and stuff, but man, they spam the crap out of you. But yeah, I read an article today that Elon Musk is gonna reinstate Alex Jones' Twitter.
They're talking about it. It was on.
They're throwing a fit.
It was on X that he was considering it, or there was a big poll, and he said was something like, "Seems like people really want to see him on this platform or something," because the poll was like millions of votes and was like 90% in favor of letting him be back on the platform. And Elon, his whole purpose for keeping Alex off the platform was that something to do with Sandy Hook, but Alex wasn't even banned from Twitter for that. He was banned for making fun of Oliver Darcy, or not even making fun of him, but like he said something like he called him outside after Oliver Darcy had been basically harassing Jones for years, and like him and other CNN people getting Jones's advertisers to cancel on him, and then bragging about it. So Jones sees him out in public and puts a camera on him and confronts him and calls him a lying SOB or something, and then tells him he has the eyes of a rat that crawled out of a possum's ass or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was he said. But they mixed up. They made a remix of it, saying "Eyes of the rat, eyes of the rat," and but that was why he got banned for Twitter, not for anything to do with Sandy Hook. Which, by the way, Alex Jones never. He did talk about it on the show, but the idea that was not true didn't originate with Alex Jones. I saw dozens and dozens of channels on YouTube talking about that when it happened. I mean, they were showing all kinds of details, and it was very, very fishy. I don't remember all the details, but I was watching it as it went, and people, there were people putting out a lot of quality content on it that raised a lot of quality questions, and it was just banned. It was never answered. And go ahead.
Did you know? Oh no, sorry. I mean, an FBI agent actually sued.
Yeah, got $9 million.
All that, and Alex never said the guy's name.
And won $9 million.
And won the. Yeah,
that's crazy. He said he had trauma from Alex Jones saying that the truth about Sandy Hook was covered up or something. And I think he might have said on. I think he said on one that he's starting to think. Oh, I'm starting to think it never happened or something like that. And then he kind of backtracked on that, and then it wasn't his thing at all. There were many YouTube accounts that it was their thing, and Yeah.
It was the witch hunt, you know. He was the whipping boy
Well,
for that
well, what they
situation.
said
You know,
was, oh, he amplified it because he had a much bigger following than all those. But the only reason he even talked about it is because all the people on YouTube that were talking about it had such, had so many views and so many people talking about it. He kind of had to address it, being, King Conspiracy like he was. So anyway, we were going to talk blackmail rings and stuff like that, and there's all kinds of new
yeah.
information coming out all the time about the Epstein case. Emery King, I'm not sure who this guy is really. He's somebody I follow on Twitter, but he released what was purported to be the Epstein flight logs, hundreds of pages of them, and I'm sure there are actually more. But Marsha Blackburn, our senator here in Tennessee, she's actually been impressing me more and more lately. Again, I'm used to seeing good
Me
stuff from
too,
her.
actually.
But since the attack over there in the Middle East, it's all been about, oh well, we've got to send our money over there to help them. And I mean honestly, I don't think anybody should be subject to terror attacks, and if they are, I think they're perfectly it's perfectly acceptable for them to defend themselves. But the idea that the money, the billions of dollars that we send over there a year isn't enough already. Um, you know, I still think we just stay out of the whole thing. But anyway, Marsha wants to send more, and I disagree with that. But anyway, that's a whole other issue. She started on
Well,
that pretty bad for a while, but then she's been back to a lot of good stuff. She's really been hitting them hard on that Epstein flight log.
well, they're sending all that money over there, and it's getting washed and going coming right back.
Yep.
Not all of it. Somebody else over there is obviously they got to get their cut, but it makes me sick. Because anybody that knows anything about this stuff is and actually pays attention, and educates themselves on the stuff knows that's what is going on right now, and it's just like things are not good. I'm
Uh,
seeing a lot of canaries in the coal mine with the system. I'm noticing just in my yeah.
there was an actor. I can't remember who it was. It might have been The Rock. But he claimed that he was reached out to by like the USO or something, and he was supposed to go some sort of federal affiliated agency, or it might have been an NGO affiliated with the federal government. But he said that they wanted him to go over to uh, Ukraine and meet with Zelensky and basically give a message of support. And damn, I don't think it was The Rock. I can't remember. It was a big star, big movie star.
They try to get him to be the president. They try to get him to run
Well,
for
well,
president.
yeah, they did. He mentioned he said he didn't say who, but you can only imagine it had to be the Democrat
Oh
Party
yeah,
that would
it
have
was,
approached
yeah,
him.
for sure.
But yeah, whoever this was that went over to, um, or that was offered money to go over to Ukraine, he it started off saying, well, you're going to be given $150,000, and he was like, okay, this sounds good. I'll go over there and do it. But then when everything was getting set up and all the paperwork was being put in line, they were like, okay, well, you're going to get $150,000, and when you get over there, you're going to donate $50,000 to Vladimir Zelensky. And he was like, what? No, I'm not doing that. That's dishonest, and I'm not doing that. If you want me to do that, I'm not going. And put out a press release, and I don't think it was The Rock, but I can't remember. Um, if anybody in the chat knows who that was, let us know. The actor that turned down the money to go over there to Ukraine. Let me look.
Yeah, they're trying to get somebody else. They're trying to get a puppet to go dance over there and do it. It's like it's just.
Danny
But what I'm
Trejo.
wondering is,
Yeah, Danny Trejo
oh
is what it
yeah,
was.
yeah, he knows what's up.
Yeah,
Danny Trejo, he's been on the block. That dude's from the barrio. He knows what the deal is.
yeah, that was the thing I read. I got in people.com.
Yeah, you ain't gonna punk out some dude like that. He don't, you know what I mean? That's Danny Trejo, man. This guy, he did time in San Quentin, dude. Like hard time. Like he knows what the deal is. And I'm sure he did a lot of reading when he was locked up all those years. And I'm sure he's educated on things.
Let's see. Let's see if we can fact check this here and see if it's true. The deadline says it's not true. Looks like timesnow.com says it happened. I don't know about deadline. Let's see. That was 9gag. And
That war is pretty much over, anyways. I mean, they pretty much lost it. Which they never cared, to begin with. Honestly, I'm sure
so
the
honestly, I
people
don't know
of
if that's true or
Ukraine.
not that Danny Trejo really did that, because I'm seeing mixed sources. Um, I'm seeing a video from MSNBC.
They
A
scrub stuff too,
Yeah, I'm seeing Deadline saying it didn't happen. Um, so we got reporting back and forth. Um,
But it's a fact that they, even Marilyn Monroe,
okay, Danny Trejo says it's not real according to Times Now News, whoever that is. But we got different. I mean, I don't know who that is. You got all these different sources saying different things. So if you want to look it up, go look. But even if it's not true, I feel like that was there's a reason that was put out there, and it's because there's all kinds of money going through there. We saw with the SBF that it's because it was easy to believe, even if it's not true. It's because it's easy to believe that it was put out there. But we saw with the Sam Bankman-Fried and the FTX crypto money that they laundered through Ukraine. They donated that money over there, which in some of the extra money got kicked back into Democratic campaigns.
Dude, Ray Charles can see that what they did there. You know what
Yep.
I mean? I mean, it's like, and we just have to sit there. It's just like
What's up, Joe?
car carjacking in broad daylight. You can't do nothing. It's just happening. It's a nightmare. There's a lot of that going on, in the world right now. It's just it's a strange time to be alive. The world that the world that we were born into is a totally different world, and it's just like,
Well, I mean that story
ugh.
right there that I just looked at, that's a perfect example of it. Because when I was a kid, we looked at the news, and Michael Dukakis was riding down the street in a tank with a fucking army helmet on, and everybody said he looked like a douchebag, and that's what all the three networks said, and that's what all the newspapers said, and everybody just read it and believed it. Next thing you know, George H.W. Bush was president. Now, I had no idea what Michael Dukakis's policies were or anything like that. He was a late '80s Democrat, so he would probably considered far right, a far right radical, by an extremist by today's standards. Yes.
Extreme, Ultimate Warrior.
But I don't know what his political views were, but when I was a kid, I saw him riding in the tank and put on the army helmet. I thought it was pretty cool. So maybe adult voters didn't think that, and he did kind of look like a douche now that I'm an adult and I see him. But it's
The scary thing for me with the government right now is the just outlandish gaslighting. The Biden administration, he literally said, when I become president, surge the border verbatim. You know what I mean? Like, he said that.
Surge
And
the
I was like,
border.
well, we just sent more troops down there to human traffic more children. It's disgusting, man. It's human trafficking and child abuse is the worst right now, almost it's ever been.
Yeah, it's
And
hard to really register it, but yeah, it's definitely bad.
they give those kids to anybody, man. And they'll give multiple kids to one person. And that's one thing that Savannah Hernandez did. She was a chick that was with Alex Jones, but they all went down there. Owen Schroyer, who gets out of jail tomorrow, also he's going to be back on. He gets
Oh
out of
yeah, that's
prison
right.
tomorrow. Yeah,
Get down early.
but yeah, but her and him both went down to the border several times. But like Alex Jones, like caught this. And it's obviously these children were not even the same. They didn't look anything like this guy. You know what I mean? It was like a buffet of kids, and they just give these kids, to these people, and they disappear into the system. Nobody knows who they are. They don't have. They have no. It's disgusting, man. I was listening to this other podcast the other day, and they're saying the numbers that those human trafficking hotlines that people call those, and they still can't get help.
Well, the
It like made me sick, dude. It was disgusting. It's like, oh my god, imagine that. Finally getting a phone, you're a slave, like some kind of sex slave or something that's horrible, and you finally get a hold of the phone. You can finally try to get help, man. And help does not come.
well,
It's just, it's
we
God.
we talked on this show before about how day one presidents often reverse a lot of the executive orders of their predecessors, and Trump was no different. Thankfully, we would want him to reverse a lot of Obama's executive orders, and then Biden was no different. He also got rid of most of Trump's executive orders day one. One of those was the policy where they did DNA tests to make sure that the children who came across the border were related to the people who were bringing them across. That way, you could find out, okay, is this just really your uncle like you said, or is this really your father like you said, or are you totally unrelated, and are you smuggling children? So one of the first things that Biden did when he was in office was get rid of that policy. He also got rid of the Remain in Mexico policy. So immediately what they do basically is all these illegal immigrants. You can see the videos right now. They come across the border. They find a way around. Which the Biden administration, another thing they did was start tearing down the border wall, the big border wall, like.
And now they're talking about, well, the border security is important to us. It's just like, that's what I'm talking about. The gaslighting, dude. It's just like,
yeah.
You literally told them to do this, and now they're doing it. And then it's like these sanctuary cities. They invited all these people to come. Come to
now
our
they're
city,
like, oh, we don't have room.
They get to, treating them like lepers and stuff. It's like, man, that is the punkest move ever. Like, you don't imagine that. You come from some like mud shanty third world country. You finally get in the United States, and you're like, oh, okay, we're in the city, and then everybody's pissed. And it's just like, it's so. If you think about that morally, it's horrible, and it really kind of proves the point that they don't care. It's all for politics. There's an agenda.
And these cities have repeatedly told people, oh yeah, we want you to come in. We're a sanctuary city. Come in and everything will be fine for you here. And then people actually start coming in, and they're like, oh wait. We need help. We don't have any room. And certainly suddenly after that, when Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, started saying that, he got a federal indictment for what was it, taking campaign donations from Turkey or something like that. It's like they never would have touched him if he hadn't have started saying, hey, New York is overrun with illegal immigrants. But with the,
they talk out of both sides of their mouth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, they don't fly with them.
Obviously a big part of the illegal immigration is a lot of the human trafficking, a lot of the sex trafficking, a lot of the child trafficking, and we see there's all kinds of evidence in plain sight. But what's not what's a little less in plain sight are some of the elite blackmail rings that we have kind of uncovered over the years. One of the main one being the Jeffrey Epstein ring, but we've also not only Jeffrey Epstein, we've seen Peter Nygaard go down. We've seen Jean-Luc Brunel go down. These are like fashion icons, and Peter Nygaard was let's see. Let's pull him up real quick. Let's look at Peter Nygaard and Jean-Luc Brunel. He was the one I was trying to think of the other week that had the real weird stuff with like trying to knock up chicks from all over the world. And here is this guy's he was a fashion guy too. He lured and drugged. Let's look at this CBS News. He lured and drugged dozens of victims and sexually assaulted them and offered them modeling contracts. And he would bring children and women in from outside the country, and he was basically like setting up a selective breeding program. Yeah. Yeah, he had a database of 7,500 girls that he was going through, and he was like, supposedly he was like looking for genetic characteristics, and he was trying to breed in like, and it's part of these elites where they want to breed the characteristics. They're trying to breed themselves.
He was in the back of a police car. Did you notice that? Yeah. In that picture, I just noticed that he was in the back of a police car. They arrested him?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's been convicted, I'm pretty sure.
Oh wow! So that's like Harvey Weinstein.
Oh yeah. No, his employees had maintained a database of over 7,500 girls and women back to 1987 with photographs, ratings. They paid them for sex and promised them deals, and then didn't come through with them, and then would his company, the what was it called? He got 4 weeks, 4 counts of sexual assault was what he got, and then and that was I think in Canada, and he was extradited to the U.S. for sex trafficking and racketeering, because they were flying these women around and flying these children around to different parts of the country, flying them over state and international lines. And he used his employees to groom and entice them, and basically was collecting women to pass his genetic material through, because you know how these creeps are. They're pretty sure they have it figured out, and they may be right. There's a certain formulation where you can basically be born back into your own body if you know that, at least that's what they claim. That's why they're trying to do all this. That's why they're trying to do all this. They're trying to keep their spirit themselves passing down through their offspring. But you know, it's like if you're alive while your child is born, of course your soul or spirit can't go into a body while you're alive, so you have to.
It's the same concept a demon uses. It needs a vessel.
Yeah, basically that's it. Yeah, they're trying to create a ready vessel for themselves, and so part of this was to collect specimens who had genetic characteristics that they desired in order to pass them on to themselves in a future life. So
they're trying to be like, I want a Brad Pitt. I want to look like Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
next
but it was mostly I want to bang chicks with big old titties. That was
yeah.
Yeah, and this guy, he liked no, I heard him like talking, like there was a video, there was a I think it was this let me see if I can find the name of it. There was a video, a documentary of him, and they had a clip of him like talking to these women who he was interviewing, and he was basically like just telling them he was going to bring them in from some third world country, and telling them he liked their big hips and big titties and stuff like that, and but oh shoot, where'd it go?
You know, but the thing with the important thing to remember with Epstein is it was an intel operation. You know, they had think of all of Hollywood. They had them blackmailed. It was never supposed to come out. This was never ever supposed to happen.
Well,
I don't know officially which intelligence communication that Epstein was working for. Probably moonlighting. I'm sure he was. You know, he was probably doing espionage. I know for a fact he was. But you know, the Clintons thing that they take all the politicians there to this island. They have secret cameras, and then they videotape you. And if you're a politician, you go up there, they get you liquored up, and then they bring an underage girl in there, and they get you to do stuff on camera, and then you're blackmailed, dude. You're gonna vote. You're gonna do whatever they tell you to do.
And this is not a new game. This actually goes back to the Playboy Mansion. You know, the whole purpose of the Playboy Mansion was. Yeah, and Hugh Hefner was actually a CIA operative, and he was set up to, and okay, this is not, if you ask me to,
even Marilyn Monroe, even Marilyn
Monroe. Well, Hugh Hefner's whole job was to blackmail the Hollywood and political elite, because the Hollywood elite were basically the ones who set the culture for the country, and this is just my opinion, but this is what I think was happening. I think that Hugh Hefner was a CIA or other intelligence operative plant who was collecting blackmail data by basically throwing these big lavish parties. He was inviting all the stars to come in. The stars come in to the Playboy Mansion. He's got these girls everywhere. You go back into a room. You're doing drugs and drinking and partying like Hollywood stars, and the next thing you know, you're back into a room. Hugh says, "Hey, you know, these ladies have been eyeballing you. Why don't you go talk to them?" And you go over there and talk to them, and you know, you wake up in the morning, and these people who you were with last night, they wake you up. They're basically sitting on your bed with the videotape saying, "Hey, you know, this was a crime you committed last night. We have evidence of this. Not only was it a crime, this was pretty much the most heinous crime that you can be accused of committing, or one of the most, and it's probably the most heinous crime you can be tricked into committing. You know, I mean, so they have you on video there, and you're pretty much, they have you by the balls. So
yeah, compromise at that point. It's compromise,
and it starts off
all of these people. Gosh.
Yeah, and it starts off with Hollywood. You know, it starts off with the music scene. It starts off with famous people who are the cultural drivers. That was the most important thing for them to take over.
Yep.
So they were real big on this with the music and the movie and the television scene in the all the way back to the 50s, when pretty much when television started is when they started pretty much blackmailing stars. And then the celebrities, or the politicians, well, they all wanted to be adjacent to the stars, because what are the stars? The most famous people. And we could get into a whole discussion about the occult meaning of the stars and all that stuff. But yeah,
Influencers.
that's what it
Yeah.
is. That's a good way to put it. All right, let's just get into it real quick. We can make it quick. You said it, influencers, the stars. And if you look at why they're called the stars, why are the celebrities called the stars? Because it's what everyone watches, and it influences us all. The stars. And if you go all the way back to ancient times, if you wanted to know which way we were going at night, you had to know where the stars were. If you wanted to understand what season it was, so you knew what crops to plant, and you had to know where the stars were. The stars influence all of our behavior, and well, now we know it wasn't the stars; it's actually the position of the Earth in space. But the stars were an indicator of that. So we the stars were influences on us, and that's why the celebrities are called stars. Everyone watches them, and they influence us, and that was why it was key. Because if you want to affect policy, first you have to affect the culture, and that was the main thing. We can blackmail these people, get them to affect culture the way in which we desire, and this will in turn eventually reach policy. And if you look at to jump forward in time to the 1980s, with the what's his name, Yuri Bezmenov. These Russian names I have a hard time, but the fellow he had the interview with I believe it was John Stossel, and he was saying going through all the planks of the Communist Party that they had actually achieved, and that was one of the things that we looked at, is they actually, intelligence agencies. He was Russian, Yuri Bezmenov. Yeah, that's his name. He was Russian, but their aim was to influence the culture of the United States so much that it would change in 40 years from then. And I would argue they succeeded. Even if the Soviet Union is no longer around it, they succeeded. So the idea that our CIA wasn't doing the same thing in the 1960s, especially when we look at the fact that the CIA is the intelligence agency for the foreign bankers, which were really just the old money of Europe. So to think that they wouldn't do that on us because they're supposedly Americans, well, that's just silly to me.
Yes. Sorry, my cat.
I didn't know you had a cat.
She came in here fussing. Yeah. She
What's her
came in
name?
fussing.
Sky.
Like from Paw Patrol.
She's a dark Sky.
That's in my. Yeah, she's solid black. Cause I always wear black clothes, so I have black hats. So my clothes don't get
Yeah,
ruined.
mine were covered in white hair today, dude. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's
I feel like Klaus Schwab with my cat in my lap.
Petty Kitty.
You will eat the
Pet
bugs.
the kitty and eat the bugs.
But yeah, I mean, I also heard that Marilyn Monroe was totally like, doing intel stuff and blackmail stuff, and she was sleeping with JFK. I've heard all kinds of crazy stuff about Marilyn Monroe, man. That's a
It
rabbit
really
hole right
is.
there. But and then like we were saying, about how they use Hollywood and stuff, and Charles Manson, um, was being used by the CIA. There was a Joe Rogan podcast I watched recently, and he was breaking it down with this guy. He was like, Charlie Manson kept getting arrested for stuff, and they couldn't keep him in jail. They kept turning him loose, and the sheriff was just like, above my
Yeah,
pay
yeah.
grade. You know
Well, I
what I
mean,
mean?
I
Like,
think that means he was told it was above
he
his
was
pay
working for
grade. He
them.
was told that he had to leave him alone.
Yeah, well, they would arrest him, and he would get arrested, and then he would just let him loose. It happened like several times. I watched this, and it was talking about how they even showed Charlie Manson, how to dose people with, what I mean, how to make it look like you're taking it, and then give it to other people. Because what he would do is get all these kids to take acid, and then he wouldn't take it, and he could totally control the vibes and the situation, and manipulate, brainwash and stuff, and but yeah, he had ties to it, the Beach Boys and all that, and you know, it was a wild, like, that's another rabbit hole. Charles Manson, man, that guy. There's so much stuff surrounding that. But I think we talked about it before, but I'm actually a McCoy, like from the Hatfield McCoy feud, and I think I already told you about this, but I was researching it, and my distant relative Fred McCoy, he owns the Hatfield McCoy Museum in Pikeville, Kentucky, and he had a podcast. I was watching it, and I'm actually kin to Charles Manson, is my cousin. So that was like crazy to me. There was his biological father. Charles Manson's mother was a prostitute, and his biological father, I guess, got her pregnant. And then I don't know if Charlie ever knew his biological dad, but anyways, I'm related to Charlie through his father. His father's mother was a McCoy. But Fred had traced it all back. You can go look it up if you don't believe it. It's on the Hatfield McCoy Museum page, which is also a really cool page. And if you're into history and stuff, you should go subscribe to it because there's a lot of false information. Pretty much like everything most people know about the Hatfield McCoy feud is just straight up bull. That was fabricated, Like, but yeah. Anyways, like you were talking about with the blackmail stuff and the CIA working with things. But we were talking about too. Somebody else has something in common with Charles Manson and Jeffrey Epstein,
Uh,
and that is
I'm gonna show this. I'm gonna show this screenshot real quick. I might lose your audio for just a second. I'll be right back to you, Aaron. But I just want to show people this is from housegenealogy.com. According to this, Elizabeth McCoy was born in 1786 in Maryland. She married William Scott, and they had 10 children. And name them all, and they say Charles Manson is a descendant through son Andrew Scott.
yep. I couldn't believe it, dude. I was like, Charles Manson's my cousin.
I can believe it.
Like, crazy. Because all that stuff happening out west, that happened in California.
I'll be honest,
man.
I'm surprised
Charles
Manson. I'll be honest, I'm surprised he's not a redhead.
Yeah, man. He actually probably had a little bit of red in his beard, but yeah, shoot, man, he was just slipped through the cracks, man. Poor Charlie Manson. He was a lot. Like I said, his mom was a prostitute, and he just had a rough life. He was always in the system, and he was in prison and stuff before he was even an adult. So, and even if you look at the Bond movies and stuff, man, even James Bond, like there's a certain prototype the government likes to use, and it's usually people who have been abused when they were younger. It's something about the whole the psychology behind it, the programming. You know what I'm saying? From a child, like Bond was an orphan, and I think it has something to do with the emotional lacking or that lacking of home or whatever it may be that causes that. But they definitely look for that, or maybe just to make people cold. If you don't, I don't know. I think I'm trying to get at with it, but yeah, Charles Manson, they like people like that because if anything happens to him, who's gonna care? He doesn't have a family besides his Manson family that he created, with LSD and brainwashing, But Charles Manson actually never got convicted of killing anybody. He brainwashed people to do it.
Well, and they say that Charles Manson may have been one of the early MK Ultra victims and handlers. That he may have actually been programmed to handle his people and have them do their things. You've seen that video or that movie, The Manchurian Candidate. It actually came out before the Manson murders, well before the Manson murders. It was in the 50s, and it was based on real things that were coming back. People brainwashed by the Koreans and Chinese that had been captured during the Korean conflict, and they came back. They were ready. They brainwashed them completely and had. There's videos of it where these people were the American GIs. They were come back and they were ready to declare war on their own country because they had been tortured and conditioned. Like different. There's different techniques, but I'm pretty sure that the Far Eastern version of this is a brutal torture until submission, and the MK Ultra program used that, but I think they eventually refined it to something much more potent and much less physically damaging and psychologically damaging to the user or to the victim of it, so that this is psychological programming on a much deeper level. And I think with the Mockingbird program is where they eventually went mass scale with it. And the Mockingbird program eventually, first with the idea was that basically these CIA operatives embedded within the U.S. mainstream media would, and it was the only media at the time, but they would basically mockingbird journalists and act like a journalist so that they would fool the American people into believing them, and they could place little bits of information, stuff to fuck with people, and it culminated in, like, say, the Trump Russia dossier, which was totally made up by the intelligence community in order to influence the presidential election. Why that's not like the biggest story in the history of the United States, and why there aren't dozens of people in jail for it. If you can. If you look back at American history, if this happened at any other time than right now when we've been totally captured, there would be heads rolling for it. I'm telling you, man. That's a major thing. Like all the head intelligence operatives in the United States got together and conspired to lie to the people and make up a false story about a presidential candidate because they were paid off by Hillary Clinton to win to do it. I mean, God, my God, that should. I mean, I guess because
it's better than the latter. It's better than what some people get from the Clintons,
yeah.
which is, you know,
Yeah,
6 feet
this
in
is
a
true.
hole.
They end up
Ashtray.
offing themselves with 2 shots to the back of the head, and then
Hunter S. Thompson, actually, man, there's 2 shots. Did you know that? I just found
to
that out
Hunter S.
recently.
Thompson. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's 2 bullets found, man. Yeah. Um, but there's contradictory things. But we don't want to go down that
Yeah,
rabbit
we'll
hole.
do
We'll
that
stay where
another
we're
time because we're
at.
coming up on an hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it all boils down to even on the local level, we could have these blackmail operations where when we're talking this was well known in. If you look at The Godfather, some of the things that the mafia did, and The Godfather, the book came out in, I think, the late '60s, early '70s. Yeah, they had a brothel and they had blackmail operations. That was what the mob did. They ran numbers, they ran gambling, they ran blackmail operations, and they would collect on you if you were cheating on your wife or if you were gay. They would take pictures of you and they would deliver them to you in a manila envelope, and they would say, "Hey bud, we got you by the fucking balls, so you're gonna do what we says now, eh?" And it's just a modern version of it, because cheating on your wife now is not enough to ruin your political career. It's not enough to send you to jail. So they've got to get something worse. And just like a gang, like a street gang, if they initiate you into the gang, they want to be sure that you're not going to tell on them for the evil things that they do. So they want you to do some evil things too, so that if you ever get the notion to be telling on them, well, they have something on you, and you'll be going down too. And so that the realm of macro politics and international politics is no different. It's just on a larger scale, which means in order to get somebody, yeah, you remember, I mean, even 10 years ago or 15 years ago, John Edwards basically lost in the South Carolina primary, was out of that race. He's done in politics when he was up against Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama because he cheated on his wife. But at the same time, Bill Clinton, we all knew he cheated on his wife while he was president. So it made it okay for.
She's been bitter and pissed since that happened, man. I mean, really seriously, if you look back.
But I mean, the thing is, people actually cared about. That was enough to ruin you in the Democrat Party, even in 2008. It was actually 2007. But you look, if somebody found out that a political candidate cheated on their wife now, I mean, it's almost like it would have almost no bearing on it. You would say that's irrelevant to the race.
Unless you're Trump.
Yeah. Well, there was a affidavit from back in 2008 that this guy that used to work for Nikki Haley said that she basically took him in her husband's Navigator to the parking lot of the Applebee's after a couple of Mai Tais and rode him in the passenger seat and then paid him to keep his mouth shut. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what he signed an affidavit saying.
She probably slapped him in the face with some money. Licked it and stuck it to his forehead. Thanks for the ride.
Did you see Vivek Ramaswamy totally annihilate Nikita Hirata or whatever the hell her real name is, Nikita Haley.
That lady
Oh yeah, she
sucks.
does.
She gets two
Oh
thumbs
yeah,
down.
it was beautiful. I only saw the clips of the debate where he was getting her, and he told Chris Christie that he needed to. What was it he said? You need to get off of this stage, go have a nice meal, and get the hell out of this race. Well, I love that he told him to go have a nice meal. Well, go get the fuck out of here.
Very
Get out of here, you
subtly,
fat
yeah, yeah,
fuck.
yeah, yeah. He is. See, that guy's like just. He is like the definition. Like, if you look at the definition, of like just like gluttonous, greedy politician, he just reminds me of just like chicken grease on his face. It makes me sick, dude. He's just so greedy. I can see through him like a friggin' mirror, dude. It's like, dude, you are so full of. You know who really upset me the most is Pants, dude. He
He, I
just
think
that
I
guy
think he sucked all
sucks.
along, man.
Yeah, but it was a letdown. That's why I don't even trust Vivek Ramaswamy, man. Like, I mean, I'm glad he's there, and I hope he's not just an Indian Ted Cruz. I hope he's true. Like, I have like battered wife
Yeah,
syndrome from all these
absolutely.
politicians, because like I trust them. I'm like, yeah, they're doing good. And then they just, I'm like,
Oh, I
no,
just liked watching him
no,
make fun of people
no.
that I detest, Nikki Haley and Chris Christie, and uh,
Yeah,
I guess he wasn't too bad. I don't detest Ron DeSantis, but I don't really care for him either. It was still fun watching, and Vivek didn't go after him as hard either, but I did enjoy that.
I would rather have Vivek than anyone else
Yeah.
besides Trump.
I think
I don't
Vivek
trust
would make a
RFK.
good chief of staff for Trump or something like that.
That's
To
probably
have a
what he'll
guy
do.
who is
Yeah,
a
he'll probably end up
CEO
doing.
in the White House making, because Trump's real main problem that he had, last time, was he surrounded himself with horrible advisors because basically,
His
well, I
kids
mean,
influence him too
I don't
much.
even think that was it. I mean, I think they did to a degree, but I mean, there were things like that
Jared
yeah, like
Kushner, a
that
little
they both
weaselly
got
prick.
into a little bit, but I think it was even more. Um, it was more the people he actually hired, like Rex Tillerson, the Exxon CEO that he hired for Secretary of State, and then Mad Dog Mattis, and all these guys that he thought were on his side and basically would help him navigate the waters because he was new in politics. He didn't know how this shit works, and he got fooled, man. He got fooled,
Maddox,
man.
oh yeah, I do. General
Yeah.
Milley, dude, that guy, he just looks like a generic like cuck from a '90s movie, like the villain guy. I don't know. When I look at him, I just see like shadiness. I
I
don't
see
like him.
makeup on him even when he's not wearing it. Um, I see like
Yeah,
eyeshadow and
just
stuff on him. But no, I mean, I think that's where you could look at Vivek. But to get to before we finish up tonight, because I wanted to drive this point home, because we're talking political blackmail rings, and we're giving you a couple examples of the Epstein ring being the most famous one, but we've also had um, ones that were uncovered again, like with and this was a little bit more under the table. It's not been like national news, like
it's about to get
yeah,
juicy
but I
up in
mean,
here.
but the whole Hugh Hefner thing. I mean that's not confirmed. It's alleged, but
I can
it all
totally
really does
see
make
that, man.
sense,
I
and
mean,
especially when you look at you're talking about Charlie Manson
look at
and
Sean
his
Penn
connection to
and
the music
yeah,
scene. You're
Sean
talking
Penn.
about the Laurel Canyon connection and Timothy Leary and all these guys being connected to military intelligence and CIA, and all just happening to be the ones who had the main influence on. Okay, how many people do
Jim
you know
Morrison.
that have a relative or like a direct family member in the CIA or military intelligence? I don't know anybody, but yet, and I especially don't know any musicians who have a direct family member in this. But everybody goes out to
He's a
Laurel
sneaky little
Canyon,
squirrel, a
and they
little
all
sneaky
have these
squirrel.
Laurel Canyon, Aaron. That was the thing when I was talking to you on the phone that I was trying to remember. Where the Doors and the Mamas and the
Oh yeah,
Papas and I couldn't think
Oh
of the
yeah.
geographical name for the place, but Laurel Canyon, they were heavily influenced by. I mean, all this stuff was happening about the time that the Manson murders happened. And you have that song "California Dreamin'"
Yeah.
released about that, which was a killer song,
Well,
by the way.
they didn't want peace and love. You know, they didn't want peace and love. They hated that movement. They did not want a movement of unity
Well,
and
what they did
love,
is they
which
turned it
is God is
into
love.
they turned it into drugs and party and free
It's
sex,
yeah.
and instead
Oh
of
yeah.
being
Yeah.
the what it was intended to be, and what people really thought they were. I don't know if it was intended to be that. What people they thought they were getting
It
into, it
was
was corrupted, just
corrupted.
like everything.
Yeah.
So they really just started
Everything.
with doing a number on the culture right there. And it handed down through the day, and all the time we thought we were being counterculture, right? Because we were rebelling against the conservative state here I mean, at least that's how it was in the 80s and 90s. Even if whether they were Democrats or Republicans, a lot of it was the Democrats in the 80s and the early 90s with the parents, the PRCC, the PMCC. But the fact of the matter was they all wanted to basically influence the culture. And if you go back even before that, they were still influencing the culture, but it was in response to conservative America, to 1950s America, to this kind of manufactured fake America that never the post-war era where there was this short time period where the money was really worth a lot. People were able to buy a lot. They could support a family on one income. There was plenty of manufacturing, and this didn't really last for a very long time. I mean, a matter of like 10 years it started breaking down. And so you had it's in this backdrop that you have this kind of counterculture forming, and because they know that this idea, this fake 1950s America, is not the real America, and you start to see this counterculture pop up in the
It is to
well
me, you know.
well I
It's
mean, we
just
all want that, but this was an idyllic version of America. I mean, obviously you want Main Street, and you want a factory in your town where people can work, and you want Dad to be home at dinner time every night. That's all great stuff. But a lot of that wasn't necessarily reality, but it was portrayed as what everybody experienced. Then you could go buy a car, right out of high school. Or while you were in high school, you could afford like a new muscle car in the early 60s and late 50s. But that died pretty quick. And anyway, this counterculture that happened with the Timothy Leary and the hippies, and the the Laurel Canyon music scene, it was all influenced by a lot of the ideas that were also what Charlie Manson was sharing. But basically, he was.
and we'll reference the name of let's call out the name of some of these programs like MK Ultra is what most people know it as. But there's lots of other like you said, Mockingbird. There's other things, and
Monarch.
this is what I'm saying. Yeah, man. Yeah. Oh, that's a big one. Yeah. I think was it you that sent me that? No, it was my buddy Terrence sent me that. And yeah, me and you talked about it there for like a long time. The Monarch program, which I'm scared to even bring it up. Like I don't even want to talk about it. It makes me uncomfortable to even talk about
Yep.
it. You know what I mean? Because it's like it's still like under there. It's not like
Well,
out on
Monarch
the
is
mainstream.
Monarch is,
I mean, but
I'm pretty sure still being implemented with the. I mean,
that's what I'm
if you look
saying.
at
Yeah,
Manchurian
it's
candidate, if
still
you look at
active. It's
Manchurian
not
candidates,
classified.
where you have there's different levels of operatives, the alpha betas, on down to I've only seen on down to like the sigmas, but they each have their own roles, and they're basically ritually abused in order to break their mind until they can be put back together in a meticulous fashion. Yeah, and reprogrammed
Reprogrammed.
to
Yeah,
behave a certain way, and
reprogrammed.
they basically they understand dissociative identity disorder, in which the mind breaks and the person basically creates a place inside their mind. Their mind will actually create a little compartment inside itself for the person to live in while they're experiencing trauma, so that they don't have to have the pain from the trauma. So that's what creates a dissociative identity disorder, which used to be called multiple personality disorder. And the whole thing was that when you create this, you can basically program these different alters, as they're called. These are the different personalities that can be created by basically shattering a person's will and their psyche with trauma. So you scientifically figure out how to do this, and they've done it over hundreds of years, but they really
This
perfected
is
this
real.
version in the 50s and 60s, and then they went on to, I mean, this is old hat now. This is like stone tools now compared to what they have now. Everything's electronic now. I mean, pretty much if they want you to have an impulse in your head, they can pretty much put that impulse in your head, and you'll feel like it's your own thoughts, and it gets a lot scarier than that,
Yeah.
especially considering the mass formation psychosis that we have when stuff is released through mainstream media, because so many people still follow all that. And if I tell my family member that, I don't know, I don't know, just say for example, this vaccine is going to hurt you, but they see on NBC, they see on CBS, they see on Fox News that this damn thing's the best thing since sliced bread. Well, obviously I'm just the crazy family member who watches too much YouTube, while the authorities, the people who know what they're talking about, are telling me to do this. So we've formed this system where, even though people know the news lies, they know, they've seen it, they call it out, but they still continue to believe them over people who have a proven track record, like they even say somebody we were talking about earlier, Alex Jones. Because he's not on MSNBC, or not, he's not on NBC, or he's not on CBS, or he's not the New York Times. Those things still have this air of
He's not turtly enough of a
That's
turtle
right. They
anymore.
have this an air of infallibility, where it's like the fucking New York
Yeah.
Times. If you go back and like the Pulitzer Prize, even you go back to the Spanish American War, like the Pulitzer was one of the guys who basically made a fake story to push us into that war, saying that Spain had bombed the USS Maine, when actually there was an accident in the magazine of the ship, and they had an explosion that took the ship down. Well, um, they blamed the Spanish and caused us to go to war with them. And if you get into that, really, I mean, we even call that yellow journalism. You talk about that in school, but you don't talk about the fact that the owners of the papers that published those stories that got us into those wars were actually owners of sugar crop plants or sugar crop operations in Cuba, and the Spanish were actually shutting them out from their sugar operations, and helping Cuba to shut them out. So they were like, "Oh no, we can't have this." They use their power, to the papers that they owned, to sway public opinion in favor of war in order to protect their profits from their sugar crops. So this is an old game. The idea that the press is independent is silly, or at least that the mainstream press that you see is independent. The press that you see is the press that has the most money, which is the press that is funded by the most evil people in the world. So if you're not actively seeking out alternative news, if you're not looking in the alternative media for a news source that you think is truthful and that you can trust, then you're definitely not you're definitely not going to be as informed as you should be. And if you're only watching one source,
Um,
no matter what it is, you need to look at a few others.
yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, but all people are doing now is just laying around eating hot Cheetos and making TikTok videos. You know what I mean?
Twerk,
Like
eat
it's
hot
just
chip, and lie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's we need this generation is I'm starting, like we were talking about earlier, the counterculture. I'm starting to notice with the younger kids, they're starting to. It seems like they're going against. It's like the opposite of what it was. My thing is, if whatever everybody else is doing, if you're doing that, you're not a rebel. You're
They're
not the
starting to
counterculture.
realize
You're
counterculture is a
mainstream.
plant now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But we didn't even talk about the whole Sean Williams thing yet, man.
Well, let's get into it real quick and get out of here. But yeah, let's talk about that. Our local, what we suspect may be a politician, a political blackmail ring connected into the sheriff's department or maybe the police department and maybe many other areas locally here with Sean Williams. He was charged with sexual assault. He was charged with we'll say I don't
Making
child
CP,
sexual assault and production
like
of
disgusting,
yeah. So
horrible stuff.
they found over 50 videos of him with women in his room that in his apartment that were non-consensual. They also found underage people on there. The guy's being
Literal babies.
the
Literal
oh, I didn't
babies,
know
dude.
that. Jesus.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, this guy could have murdered somebody. I wouldn't have been as concerned
Yeah.
about it. As it's like even in prison, bro, it don't fly. But it's like the babies is where the buck stops there. If we don't stop it there, society collapses. Period. Which it's almost to the point where it about needs to, if you ask me. It's got to it's just too far out there. When we were growing up, it was a different world. And now it's just like wait. It's like, well, I was always weird and different. I've always been that way, but now uh, it's like, wait a minute, y'all are not supposed to be doing that. This is backward now. That's just funny how the way it works. But you can either be miserable and drowning in sin and things, or you can choose to be with God and the light and love. And man, if I can find peace and love and God that anybody can, because anybody who knows me knows I've not exactly been a choir boy, my whole life, but there is hope for so that's my thing. It's just like the divinity of God and the peace that only God can give us, and but yeah, people get too far out there, man. It starts out with just lust, and then that it's like, and then that's not enough, and then they go down these rabbit holes, and there's a market for it, and like look at Japan and China and stuff. They don't even allow pornography. You know what I'm saying? It's blurred. China
But
doesn't know how
China,
wrong
I mean that's true. But Japan has hell, they have
it's blurred.
prostitution and like it. They
That's
have
true. Yeah.
a like I saw a video in Japan where they were going around and asking these Japanese women if their husband has sex with a prostitute, is that cheating? And they're like, no, as long as he doesn't care, as long as he doesn't care for her, as long as he doesn't love her, then what's the problem? And
Yeah. I've got 3 friends in Japan right now. Actually,
and
they're
they
telling
actually
me,
do have
pretty much
they
just
have
how it
easy
is.
access to
Right.
prostitution, and they have masturbation machines. They have stations where you can go in and just hook up and or maybe yeah, that's like an industry there. It's like if you
Like a relief
yeah, it's
station,
like in
or whatever you want to call
Idiocracy where they go by and they're like latte and a hand job, $5.
Well, the thing about that is, at least it's a consenting adult.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You probably have to show some kind of identification. You have to seek out that. You can't just be like a kid on a phone or a computer and just smut
But if
everywhere.
you look at Japan's culture, they're at like a 1.3 replacement rate. They're not having babies. I mean, that's got to be a
Uh,
big part of it, right? Their culture is going to be destroyed in how many years? What, 2 generations? If they're not even having 2 kids for every family, they're
China's doing the same thing. They're freaking out, man. Like used to, they don't let you have one kid. Now they're like,
oh
have
yeah, that's
babies.
right. Yeah, because they had all those billions of people, and then they had a billion people, and then they only had a half a billion babies, and they're like, wait a minute, what are we going to do with all these old people? Like we're going to need we're going to need kids to take care of all these old people.
Well, all those old people. If we have something in a LA, then it'll take care of the OLD. So it's who knows, man, who knows, but it definitely come out of a lab. It was not out of a wet market, dude. Asians have been eating dogs and all kinds of crazy stuff for as long as
Raw
history's been, and it
squids.
never happened. Yeah, dude. I mean, and they've not been no. I'm not gonna say the word, the terrible word. I'll get zapped from outer space, like my computer
A
will
rod from
explode.
God.
But yeah, yeah, like but anyways, I got off track there, but yeah. Anyways, my point with the whole thing was with with Sean Williams. Okay, the initial reports were covered up. Like it was like we were talking about with Charlie Manson. Charlie Manson kept getting arrested for all kinds of stuff, and they would just turn him loose. And the cops are pissed. They're like, "It's above our pay grade. Like we can't do anything about it."
And it's
because Charlie was working with the
And
CIA and they were
to back you up
tracking
on
him.
that, that's true. They did have they did arrest Manson on local charges several times, and the sheriffs would be forced to let him out. He was
Yeah,
connected to somebody above them, and then you get into somebody like Sean Williams.
and they gag him. They gag him. They
Yeah,
can't say a word about it.
and
And, there's 9 people fired from the Johnson City Police Department over this. As there probably should have been, but my only argument is if it was the 3-letter agencies who did this, which it smells like it. Now,
yeah,
high heavens, I don't know anybody that would cover this up like that. But here's the deal: the FEDs come in and they tell these officials, our officials, the local ones, they're like, "Yo, this is going down," and they're like, "Well, do you have a warrant?" And they're like, "Yeah, where the warrant's at? It's on the end of my shoe."
well,
And then they
if
don't
you
need it.
remember in
But
February of this year, um, this was starting to make waves, but it hadn't totally made waves yet. We got Johnson City Press here from February this year. Johnson City Police Chief, other department heads take city incentive to retire. So they decided, just in the nick of time, 23 in cities employees who accepted. They have over 30 years of consecutive experience, and they took a buyout for 6 months of salary and quit. And a lot of them in the police department, including the Johnson City Police Chief and the department's second in command, accepted that and retired right before all this Sean Williams stuff started coming out. Now, it didn't start coming out. It started hitting the news last year, but they had there, as we've talked about on the channel before, there was a lady who was a liaison with the Department of Justice, with the with the Johnson City Police Department, because she was doing these drug cases where they would work together, multi-jurisdictional task force, and she was basically the liaison between the feds and the locals there. And she found that there was all these accusations against this guy that weren't getting investigated, and all these rape kits that were turned in that weren't getting tested. And so she was trying to get it tested, and she ended up getting fired. So she files a suit with the feds, and that's really how all of this stuff starts turning to light. And I got to give it to the WJHL. They're usually not on much on stuff like this, but they really have given us a lot of good information on this case. So if you look at if you want to look back, just go Google Sean Williams and WJHL.
That woman is brave. All these victims of people that come out to, and I know it's got to be painful for them, and stuff, and some of these victims, they didn't even know they were victims. It's heinous. And I mean, babies, man. Like I said, this dude could have killed somebody as long as they got him. I would suck. I'm like, yeah, I hope they catch him. But like, when we have a monster in our community like this, and that's what I'm saying. Who would cover this
So
up?
why would they cover it up? What's the reason for them covering it up?
Feds, dude. He was working. Well, we know he had drug charges. He was moving from all these cities, Kentucky, Florida. He was going around. That's what I'm saying. I think this dude was involved in human trafficking and obviously drugs. You see what I'm saying? So this is what I'm saying is I would hate for these men and women who spent their whole lives as civil servants. And here's the deal: if the feds come in and they tell those officials, you can't say a word. It's a gag order. They put gags on.
They'll put them in jail. They'll put them in prison.
Take it. Yeah, they're like, you don't say a word. You shut up.
They'll lose their law license. They'll lose their livelihood. They'll not be able to earn a living.
Their warrants are on.
That's no fucking excuse. You guys need some fucking balls. If somebody came to me right now and they were like, "Oh, we're going to take your ability to make money if you don't cover up for us for a child trafficking operation," I'd be like, "Fuck
that's
you!
What I'm saying,
take
dude,
everything I have. If I have evidence that's going to put you away, take everything I have."
That woman that exposed this stuff is a hero of ours. I mean, she really is, because she risked. I mean, she risked it all because it's disgusting. And if she hadn't have done that, this guy could have. We would have never found out that maybe they could have never gotten that kind of videos. I mean, any kind of abuse for any for me, it's kids, dude. Like I don't. That is the line in the friggin' sand, man. As a society, we cannot allow this. You see what I'm saying? As a culture, and it's going down that path. And honestly, I don't want to live in a world where there's open pedophilia and they're legalizing it. It's just like it goes against nature. It goes against everything. I mean, it's disgusting. I mean, it really is. And like it goes like we were talking about with the pornography. It's the demoralization of the West. It's if they can get one generation lazy slobs who don't do nothing, won't work, the victims, and they just, you see what I'm saying? There's no accountability. That's how you take
Yep.
down a nation. I've seen videos of those kids in China slapping Glocks together. Probably not Glocks, whatever Chinese gun they have. Those kids, what I mean? Those kids look like they're at freaking Paris Island, dude. They're like slapping them things, cleaning them, getting them back together. And women, the same way. The country of Israel, they actually make every citizen serve time in the
No.
military. And if the United States did that, we wouldn't have this issue that
Yeah,
we're having.
I don't know about that. I'm not a big fan of that particular. I mean, Israel. There,
Well, if we
I'm
had a
more
good,
libertarian, and I don't believe in. I mean, I believe in the volunteer army. If you have a good commander in chief and a good, if you have something worth fighting for, people will volunteer. If you don't, people won't. And
I
that's why
guess
they're talking about recruiting
I
illegal
should have,
aliens and giving them citizenship if they'll go over and fight in Ukraine. So basically, they want to give them a chance
yeah,
to
that's crazy.
have all the people that are coming in through the southern border join the military to be able to probably come and take our guns because they know that Americans won't, for the most part, won't fire on one another. Um,
Yeah. But we got off
we
topic with the
did, yeah.
Sean Williams thing, but yeah, he's obviously being protected by somebody. I mean, I'm just saying,
Because that lady got
I don't
fired.
like him.
Everybody at the police department quit. Everybody in authority quit right before all this stuff started happening, and that's not going to be good enough, Chief. If you were in on it, they're going to catch up to you. Um,
Well, he almost got loose from the detention center up there, the Washington Detention Center. That did not happen under Keith Sexton's watch. He almost got loose, but he did not get loose. He didn't get loose from there. You see what I'm saying? So it's almost like he was like, if y'all want to lose this guy, do what you want with him, but he's going into your custody. He's not going missing from my jail. If that was a situation, the feds, that is the conversation
yeah.
that must have happened.
Well, I'd
Because
say there was no conversation. I'd say they just handed him over, and then next thing you know, he went missing, and he was in Fed's custody when he went missing,
yeah,
right?
well, there's a lot of good people, and
But he was being
there's
he was being
there's
transported by the feds when he went missing, right? Or when he got loose.
yeah. I just don't want to see my local people have to sit there and just take this. Just let them take the feds take a fat dump in their lap, dude. I mean, if that was the case,
Yeah,
so which it very clearly, obviously, could have been the case, but they could never say what I'm saying right now.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying? If that was the case, and they do this from sea to shining sea, man, from the Atlantic to the other end. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it happens.
Well,
It happens.
what seems pretty likely is that there was cover there
Well, he was probably selling these
that
videos. I'm sure
he
he was
was
selling them.
probably they don't mention who else may have been on any of these videos that were recorded that he had. And a matter of fact, there was something in one of the reports that made me question. I thought, oh, that's interesting because it sounds like that they went out of their way to not mention who else might be on those videos. But if we suspect collecting blackmail material, I'm sure he has videos of local powerful people and
And other business
yeah,
owners or their
local
and
politicians and our local mayor here, Kurt Alexander of Elizabethton, several years ago, he was caught by the news in a hotel room, if I'm not mistaken, with another couple and not his wife. And you can fact check
my
me
thing
on
is
that.
if
It
you're
may be
not as
incorrect,
long
but I
as you
think that's what it was.
my thing is if they're not if he's that's between him and his wife. As long as he's not doing anything illegal and that man was not in there with a
Right. No, but the
kid
whole thing
or
is that's something that uh,
yeah, I could forgive
that's
that.
something
But
that
anything else, like when it comes to
that's
kids,
something
no,
that used to be
no.
used for blackmail material, but now we pretty much accept that. So they
Yep,
weren't able to blackmail that guy with that. But
yep.
it makes you wonder.
That was a
It
big
makes you
deal.
wonder,
It
did
was at the
they?
Red Roof Inn. I
Yeah,
remember
it makes
that
you wonder,
article.
did they try to blackmail him with it and fail, and then so that he said, screw you, you release it if you have to, or
Yeah.
because they could have tried to get him with something else. Who knows? And he may be one of the good guys. It's really hard to say.
You don't move. You don't move the amount of drugs that guy was moving without them knowing, or because you know how many people they probably pulled over with stuff on them, and they're like, "Where'd you get this?" Somebody snitched on him probably like
Yeah.
5 or 6 times. Like, you know what I'm saying? When you're moving that much and going from county to county, he's interstate trafficking and stuff. So he's obviously got involved with some kind of organized crime, maybe, or obviously some kind of pedophile ring. If he's making it's
And
smut
if
films, that's
he
what I'm
is
saying.
collecting
These things
blackmail,
tie in with human trafficking.
is he just doing it to make more money to get the laws in his favor, or is he doing it for an
For
outside force
someone,
for someone?
yes.
I mean, we don't really know. We can only speculate, but we do know that that's a classic tactic employed by intelligence operations and the mafia. Like I was saying earlier, and I think I got a little bit distracted. That's what the families did in the like The Godfather. You know, they would catch other people with something information that they wouldn't want to their families or business associates or friends or the public to know, and then they would force them to pay them to not release it. And that goes. I mean, that's an old tactic. Um,
They'll call you from a payphone back in the day and be like, "Got some bad news for you,
yep.
Jim Bob. There's a manila
Yeah.
envelope behind the
Exactly.
mailbox. Go get it." He pulls out. It's like him in a wedding dress or something. He's like, "All right, well,
What do you gotta? What do
got
I
me."
gotta do? And then it's just a modern
Yeah,
iteration of that, and it's an old scheme. To think that they're not doing it anymore is insane. But we all know
it's feckless. Yeah, it's
that
dangerous. Like,
society's become a lot more accepting of lifestyles that they weren't in the past. So a lot of the old school tactics, like you're gay or you're cheating on your wife, are not going to work anymore. So they have to do it more extreme.
no,
And again, it's like the gang initiation. It has to be something so extreme that you'll never tell on them for anything. And that seems like that's probably the best way to go for them if they want to capture somebody, if they can get them to commit to that.
pay
That's
the
it.
piper.
So.
You gotta pay.
So do you
Pay to
think Sean
play
was doing that? Do you think Hugh Hefner was doing that? We know Epstein was doing it. We know John-Luc Brunel
personally.
was doing it.
Oh
We knew the
yeah.
Nixium cult was doing it with the Allison Mack, the actress from Smallville, and the what's her name? The Seagram's liquor heir. What's her name? The heir to the Seagram's fortune.
Oh, I don't know.
Bronfman,
I only know the
Claire
Winchester
Bronfman.
family.
She was involved in this cult, and they were recruiting women and to be part of this cult, and they were basically all subservient to Keith Raniere, the leader of the cult, and Allison Mack, his second in command, and they were doing things including collecting blackmail on people. So this is not a isolated incident. If it is something that's actually going on. We got a lot of reason to think that this may be the case. We got all this guy's evidence against him disappearing. People, people quitting from the department. We've got the feds involved in disappearing. We've got the feds transporting a man in a vehicle. The cameras malfunction and he escapes. All these different things that.
Epstein's cameras weren't
Yeah,
working either. What do you know? You see what I'm saying? There's so many coincidences. There's too much going on between Sean Williams and he's got. Well, yeah, there's a lot of questions I have. Where did he get his money? Where did it come from? Did he come from money? Who's he tied to? Is he tied to a big R family, maybe? Or I don't know. But when you got somebody videotaping heinous sexual crimes and stuff like this, he's and traveling around to all these different places and stuff. He's definitely involved in some kind of human trafficking. If they can get that guy in the interrogation room, the right person get a hold of him, we could probably even get some people freed. I mean, I guarantee you this guy knows where sleazy spots are and where greasy stuff is. And but I will give him this. He was pretty smart with the way he did it, as far as that. But as far as like getting out and stuff, I mean, I still just cannot wrap my head around how he was able to get out of that van with the shackles. And that's what I'm saying. It's just the whole thing stinks, and it was covered up from the beginning. You see what I'm saying? And it was his arrogance. It was his cockiness
Well,
about it.
Vacant Josh,
He
remember,
didn't.
said
He
he
didn't
can tell you right now there's no way you'd get out of those shackles and stuff without help. Remember, if you remember in the
yeah,
chat, the
man. That
guy
was a
who said from
paperclip.
personal experience he's been in those and that there's no way you're getting out of those.
I can tell you can't get out of them, dude. The shackles are it's a box. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah,
a box, man. You can't even
you can
like.
barely walk.
And this guy is. Yeah, dude, I watched the video. Actually, you probably remember Zeno. You remember Zeno, a big
Yeah,
tall guy with long hair from
collect swords.
downtown? Dude, I watched the video. Yeah, dude, I watched the video of Zeno punch him in the face outside of an elevator. It's like if you watch that video of them scuffling with Sean, you can see that Sean is not Jason Bourne, dude. There's no way he got out of these handcuffs and got loose in a little white friggin' cargo van with another guy sitting beside of him. We never heard anything from that other inmate.
Yeah.
You never will. That's what I'm saying. We will never know the full truth. It will never be able to be released unless you've watched this podcast and listened to what we've just said, probably. I mean, because they cover this stuff up. It's dangerous to even talk about it. But somebody needs to, like I said, when you got children getting hurt and no one's doing anything about it, I have a problem. And honestly, I can't think of a better thing to be like, whatever over. I mean, I don't care. If you can't, if you can't stand up, if you can't fight for what you believe in and children, then what good are you?
Well, that's the whole problem. As our over the last 40 years, people have wanted to keep their head down. They wanted to keep their you don't want to talk politics in public. You don't want to make your opinion known on this stuff, at least publicly. And at least the people who actually vote and kind of drive society.
They don't want people like me.
Now, people like our friends, they don't give a fuck. They'll tell you exactly what they think. They're not worried to say it. But the people who actually have influence on things are the ones who are super worried. So I don't know. Maybe people out there saying what they think will make them a little more free to say it. Who knows? But at any rate, we're pushing over an hour and a half now, so we're going to go ahead and get off. But I'm glad we finally got around to talking a little bit about it. I think we.
Yeah, I've been a little worried to talk. Nervous about it, but I don't care. I'm just going to about him, and he's going to.
I think we've painted a pretty good picture of it, and I think if
was confirmed he was moving meth and stuff, or drugs and stuff, like heavy weight, and he had all this weird porn. And honestly, anyone that would call me crazy for questioning it is feckless for not.
That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's more. Like, I don't care anymore, though. People do call you crazy because you don't agree with them or you don't go with the main narrative. But I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care. I'm free. You know what I mean? Like, I'm free. I'm going to live free. And if they don't like it, then whatever will happen. It's the way it is. I just, I don't give them anything to get on me. So I don't. As long as you live right, and you don't really have to.
So say what you think, say what you feel. Don't be a pussy.
Like that woman that exposes stuff, man. That chick is. I wish I knew her name, man, so we can give her a shout out for doing that, because she really was like a crucial whistleblower in this whole thing, and none of this would have even got exposed if it wasn't for her. Honestly, So. Kudos to her, man. That lady's you got some great lady cojones.
Let's see.
For doing the right thing. Do the right thing.
Let me see if I can get her name.
Yeah, we got to give her a shout out.
I've read it on the podcast several times though. Let's see.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard you. I can't remember. Yeah, man, we need more people like her. It takes balls to do that, and courage, lots of courage. But regardless, if they're going to run operations like that, they need to get people who aren't child molesters to do it. Do you see what I'm saying? If you're going to have controlled opposition, you need to make sure your op is not a friggin' making CP and a shady. Whatever,
So we can go all the way back to June of 2022. So, like pretty much a year and a half ago, the feds sued Carl Turner, the guy who retired earlier this year, saying they fired a federal prosecutor after she pressed them to investigate a string of suspected rapes. Her name is Cat Dahl, Dahl, and she is seeking punitive and compensatory damage for retaliatory discharge. So that's really bringing a lot of light to it. So Kateri Dahl, thank you for bringing that out and for not letting these ladies who reported this crime, go unnoticed, and maybe something will actually happen to this.
And babies and and he was hurting babies. You know, I mean, think about all the babies and children and women that have been saved from
Yeah,
life
and
trauma
hopefully
because she did
it'll
that.
lead to
Because she
somewhere
did
else
that.
where
Oh, it's
where
probably
we'll
going
actually
to.
find some of the other people who were involved in this, and it'll lead to more. But even if it doesn't, at least it stopped this one.
I
At
pray
least
to
it stopped
God
this
it
one
does.
person who
It'll be
was harming
brought to
somebody.
light.
So if you think one person can't make a difference, at least she's getting some light put on this. And you know, uh,
Yeah, I have like zero tolerance for kids. You know that's they're innocent. You know, children and elderly people. It's just like they can't even take care of themselves, and you sit there and prey on it. It's disgusting, dude. I mean, it's just like I wouldn't even. It's just bare hand, you know. Like, oh, Homer Simpson, dude. Like, you
and
know,
Christy says,
but
"Amen. Thank you. Thank you for joining us from the Bible Belt TN." She said we did an awesome show tonight. We appreciate it. We're gonna make Aaron a more regular guest. So Tim doesn't really like to do the news and politics stuff. He likes to do the conspiracy stuff. So we'll probably start having Aaron more regularly on the Thursday night and do Tim on the weekends. And we'll y'all definitely go back and check out at Armageddon Hour on YouTube. Follow him there. Follow us on X. Like us on X. All that good stuff. And I made a video off-roading earlier. It was a lot of fun. Went over up on Holston Mountain in a lot of mud.
I watched it.
Dude,
Yeah, dude. I was like, man, I was like about to
oh
make
yeah,
the
you'll have to
baby
go. The
knuckle
hill
roll.
was way steeper than it looked on the video.
I was
Dee was
loving it,
about to
dude.
crap herself, dude. She was scared to death. She's.
Dude.
I couldn't get her to do it again.
I saw it's filming. I was like, it's B. I was like, he's got
Yeah,
B filming. He's got it. She's the film, the
yeah,
camera
yeah.
lady
It looked
for
way
him right
steeper
now.
than it was. Or, I mean, it looked way less steep than it actually was. But uh,
Do that. Yeah, I do that with my videos of on the mountain. You know, you can never get the actual grasp. You know,
yeah.
the angle of it
But
sometimes.
it was
But
fun.
man, my daddy's.
But,
Where
up
was you
Holston
at?
Mountain, up above the Blue Hole.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's
But
a good
everybody
place.
go about to come back in on this weekend. We're gonna have Dustin and Tim back up in here, and we're gonna get into another conspiracy topic. I'm not sure exactly what we do. I got a few shows written already. I'll talk to the guys and see what they want to do, and we will get back with you this weekend. Everybody have a good one, and be sure and follow and like us everywhere. Take care,
God bless, guys. Appreciate
and
it.
we're out of here.